The rapper RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan once said that Star Trek was a precursor to the invention of cell phones. Welcome to episode 6 of the Spacing Out podcast, the only financial podcast that opens with rappers' quotes. It's not even from a song, it's just a quote. That's just how cool we are. Let's hop into it. We're talking about technology. We're talking about the crypto space. We're talking about the nitty gritty. And so this is meant to build on the class that we did. And we're going to kick it right off with some technicals. I've been really light on this stuff. But today we're going to talk about how Bitcoin is, the integrals of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is computationally solving, is a computation, basically. How do you perform computation? You use the movement of electrons. So what is it solving? It's solving for the verification of the transactions that occur on the blockchain. When these complex calculations are completed, they are minted on the blockchain, and then the miner gets paid. These miners then also function to power the blockchain. That is the underlying functionality of how the system works. And these endless problems require the miners to be constantly working. While they're working, again, that's how they function. Starting with electrons was a little too many details, but I had been avoiding. I had received 2 comments from people who were like, "You really don't go into the technicals at all," as if like I was unaware. It's funny because I actually try to even learn more about semiconductor science, and man, when I got to that space, it was probably how a lot of people that come to me feel when they encounter crypto. Or it's just like, this that's about, I can only summarize it with a noise because it's so overwhelming. It's like, oh geez, I had to read a bunch of resources. I clicked on this is derailing, but I'll get back on topic at a moment. I had to learn about semiconductors. I click on this title of this video. I don't even understand the title. I don't know what the title means. This guy that enters with, how do we transfer data? And I'm like, then it starts to click of like how little I actually understand about my computer, about how these things operate. Nonetheless, electrons, computation. They're charged, so it's pretty easy to control their movements. You get them to represent data. And then if you want to work with communication, use light, because light doesn't cause as much friction when it's going both ways down the channel. Genius. I love those engineers. Imagine telling someone they've got to solve the problem of catching light. I mean, to a modern day engineer, that's like, oh, that's basic, but it's the childlike fascination I have with science loves the concept of that, and the imagery of a little kid like running around trying to catch light in his hands. It's fun. Back to Bitcoin. So when you're dealing with this network, you got to solve 2 problems. You got to work on the ease of use for the people, or you got to work on the scalability. And like I've said in previous podcasts, it's important to follow people, right? Well, Jack Dorsey Friday tweeted about trying to solve some of these problems. He wants to open source the code, first of all, to make it easier for people to start mining on their own computers. One of the things he asked was how do you incentivize people to do that? I can't help but feel like if people were going to do that, they'd be doing it right now. yes, it is challenging, but it's not like there are definitely more challenging things. If you could figure it out in a few weeks, even if you've no technical background. If you know how to use YouTube, you can figure out a lot of things in a few weeks. A lot more complex things than you think too. It's more of the only thing stopping most people is interest, not capability. Not everyone's interested in that stuff. Yeah, more like you're different. It's not it's not the attitude to ease or anything. It's like, do I care? So hopefully he doesn't get caught up trying to solve that problem, because you can't get people to care. They don't care. They don't care. Let's work on the scalability, and maybe there is some things that could be a little bit easier, for sure. But yeah, a guy like him, he can get caught up doing that. We've seen him do that with different previous projects. Get too caught up on that. But he's got a silicon issue. Just like, the previous podcast talked about all these shortages, and yet another issue. And you can't really solve the mining issue till you fix everything else. So you gotta get more adoption. You gotta either scale vertically or scale out with more people on the network. There's a lot of crypto coins that actually need that to happen too. If he does solve that, let's say the only issue is that it's so hard. The open source code, open source codes move fast. They move real fast. So if he does that, it takes off, it works, everyone uses it. It also will immediately allow other coins to function. One of those, and then I'm going to name one coin, but I'm referring to a group of coins, because there's many coins that do this problem and more. So I'm not trying to indicate that this one in particular is good. I do own some of it though, and that's these cloud storage coins. And yeah, so we're getting down to dirt. I'm going to cover this in a few other companies that are interesting and concepts with NFTs. So with the Filecoin, you are displacing AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud-based, service. Microsoft also has Azure, another cloud-based. I mean, you got these big business models, right? You completely get displaced like instantaneously by these concept with the Filecoin. The Filecoin is that you package the information among everyone's computers. People lend out the extra storage from the computer. They download the information constantly from the file network. The information they receive is just a bit of information, because your information is actually spread endlessly across the network, which means that it's impossible to keep track of, impossible to hack. If the network crashes, everything's still saved on the computers. You can't erase the information from all the computers. Even if you crash the network, when it goes back up, everything's fine. It's still saved as hard data. It's I mean, even when I say it out loud, like right now, it's like, oh yeah, that's where that's going. That makes perfect sense. It's literally all it would need is just more people on the network, and then boom, massive business, extra income too. It'd be interesting if people actually because probably one of the things that's cheaper is like getting a few terabytes for your computer. I wonder if those prices also scale up. I mean, computers might get insanely expensive because they just become extra sources of revenue just to run them. Very interesting. Yeah. Before the shortage issues got too insane, I ended up getting a new computer actually, and it it increased in value after the purchase, which is obviously shouldn't happen. It's wild to think about. But yeah, if that takes off, it's super cool. It also displaces these massive companies that are just completely unaware. They're just not aware at all. Um, and I mean, so that brings us to another industry that's unaware of what's going on. That's the music industry. The music industry is only independent promoters have caught on to the NFT space, and what they've been doing is working with independent artists to create tickets, NFT tickets. You buy the NFT ticket, it has a photo of the artist, maybe a song coded to it, but it's also your actual ticket, and you can then resell it. In the future, you could see artists say, "Oh, people who bought my tickets to my old concerts, yeah, 5% of all the new record sales go to those old ticket holders. Thanks for being a part of my audience." And they could just do that. And in the instant they decide they want to do that, it instantaneously happens because it's all electronic. There's no tracking people down. There's no friction. It's all frictionless. It's all just boop, done. I mean, it's awesome. That's the power of technology. Sports industry's caught on to this too, so they add extra stuff into it as well. They were pretty quick. Well, what we could see in the future is them just do collectibles. There's rumor that Tezos is working with baseball. Keep in mind, if one team does it, they're all going to do it. It's going to be rapid. The market might not be aware right away. It'll be delayed. You'll get the institutional reaction, and then you'll get the public reaction. These markets are very young, and it's like all psychological the way they trade. So just be aware of that. Just be aware of that. I was trying to give some more advice, but most of these rallies or what occurs in this space is going to be all in its own unique context. So try to stay away from generalities. You want to read moments as they are in their full context. Keep following the people. All right. Music. That's probably where music's going. It's interesting. There's going to need to be new search engines and new people are going to need to come up with new business models to track the NFT songs. Because remember, people love to find the next hit. Okay. Well, now it's profitable for them to just do nothing but hunt for the next hit because they can buy the NFT for the song before anyone else, before it blows up, and then when everyone's listening to the song, it's like adoption of the song. It's like adoption of the technology, and the value of the NFT will skyrocket. So suddenly everyone. I mean, it's gonna drive people to look for new music, and it's gonna have people endlessly searching for new music, and I mean, I've been making music on the side. Everyone's like, "What is this guy doing?" He's running his own business and making music, and I'm trying to do some more comedy stuff again. This is what I'm doing. I am preparing for the future. The future is a creator-based economy, and we need if you're listening to this right now, understand what I'm saying. The future is a creator-based economy. After they automate almost most tasks, I saw a robot in Schnucks the other day that was just down the street from me that was registering how many items were on each shelf. And it was just like straight Star Wars. I might as well have been wearing a stormtrooper outfit. And I just saw this thing, and next to it was a attendant at the grocery store. And I was like, she's standing next to her replacement right now, just like nonchalant, like it's just chill. I don't even know if she's like cognizant of like the fact that thing will in a few years have arms and just do her job. But and it navigated around me like easily. I was even trying to like throw it off. It was so much smarter than a Roomba. Anyways, that's how weird I am in public. Anyway, spacing out. the space is, yeah, it's in it. The technology that's upon us is gonna just be like, we're gonna get whiplash from it because it's all gonna happen at once. Every other innovation that we want to make happens faster when we adopt crypto. You remove friction from the financial system. You remove friction from nearly everything. Legalities are no longer are no longer as slow, because they're all written in smart contracts. And there's no, filing paperwork. What do you mean? As soon as the decision's made, there's already a smart contract in place that would have to be coded beforehand. It's as soon as things play out, they're instant. As soon as it's a decision to action with crypto is instantaneous. Future elections will be held on different blockchain products, and they'll be instant. Maybe we give everyone an hour to press a button on their phone, but boom. No, instant. No friction. For any transaction, you want to pay someone in Africa, boom. You're going to still probably pay a gas fee to power the network to move the money, but it's going to be instant. You're going to be able to automate all these tasks instant as well. You're going to get paid for looking at advertisements. If you click on an advertisement and you like it, the advertising agency isn't going to pay Google. Do you understand how much trouble these monopolies are in? They are going to get blindsided. There's no friction. They're not going to pay Google. They're going to pay you. And you're going to have an identification on the new web. The new web will be on the blockchain, so it can't be shut down. On the new web, you will have a information portal that can't be tracked. I'm letting you know what the future is going to look like right now. On the new, so you'll have this profile that can't be tracked. Maybe it's part of DATS, which is a social media network that's like Facebook, but nothing will be tracked. They can't track your information. It's decentralized. It's everywhere, in pieces and bits. No computer can put it together. And we have no idea how quantum computing works. Haven't got the slightest clue. So that is the only thing that could maybe have the potential of doing that. It's not even a thought. Well, it's a thought. It's a thought of, that's impossible. That's the thought. It's not actually the thought. It's maybe making a joke, but the awesome thing about this is that profile will keep track of every ad you look at. Companies pay for ads, but they pay the ads to run the blockchain. Well, guess what? They want you to read about their product. They like their product. They'll pay you. You'll get paid. Just a little bit. It won't be much, but it'll be a cryptocurrency that's set up for that. Well, check out the ad. Boom. Get paid for the ad. Guess what? You can opt. You will then opt into the ad. What? And then the company will pay a little bit to whatever company created the currency that powers the ads. But they won't pay whatever company powers the new web, because the new web won't be powered by a company. The new search engine will be decentralized. So it won't have any sort of the bias the one that has now. The company, everything on the blockchain will be like that. Now, where are the dangers? There are some. First of all, I'm talking about stuff that who knows how. Let's not be too ridiculous on how quick these things will happen. Although some of them exist now. They all exist now. But how, people need to be on these and using them. It needs to be easy. It needs to be less friction. We still have tons of friction. that, and well, as good as it is, it's still us using it, and we're not as efficient as the blockchain. So we're we are definitely hitting a point in science and creation where we're pretty regularly making things that are much more impressive than us. Which is interesting because you constantly run into the philosophical. That's another thing. If you are not familiar with the crypto space and you don't like to think about the philosophical, you're not going to click with any of these cultures that develop around these coins, because that's all they're about. It's less about finance. I mean, the creators of these coins, the creators of a lot of these companies, they're not driven by money or riches. In fact, a lot of them end up giving away lots and lots and lots of riches and opportunities for tons of free cash grabs. There was the most notable hack ever done. Keep in mind how hard it is to do different hacks. Keep in mind this was a business end hack, not a blockchain hack. But they took like 300. I think it was actually more than that. But I'm gonna get the number wrong. It was hundreds of millions of dollars that they took. Dollars, not cryptos. Dollars. And they gave it back. Never before, never in the traditional finance system, whether there was this, I don't know, what do you call that, altruism, where people just do the right thing, like all the time. People just do the right thing when it comes to making decisions in the blockchain. It is wild and awesome and exciting, and because the number one issue with communism isn't that it is the number one issue with communism is that people who are anti-communism don't not care about people. It's just that when you create a chase for power like that, there becomes corrupt people that chase power, and it's nearly impossible to keep those people from trying to get that position. And when they get to that position, everything immediately goes to crap because they have all the power, and then they do evil things. That's what happens to every communist government. When it's first set up, it's great, and then someone corrupt gets the power because you created a position that incentivized people who just want absolute power to chase. You can't always assume you're going to have a noble leader at the helm. You can't control that. That's why that's the wisdom in not doing that, government. And I mean, that's what we see time and time again. There's a lot of people who can't get over that. But I don't know. It's the way it is. It's important to understand that is the way it is, because then you understand how amazing crypto is, because it is perfect. There's no way to corrupt it. It's perfect in that sense. I mean, you can hack it and shut it down. Even if you do that, like, the way the system operates is it can't be corrupted. Yeah, it's great. It leads to a lot of other things, not only having good fluidity, but also being, almost inherently good, I guess, in like a weird way. Yeah, that's how these communities look at it. That's why they're so dedicated. That's why you get this altruism. That's why hackers give money back. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. It'll be interesting. So, speaking of that, let's go to an industry that has no altruism, and that's the video game industry. Yeah, separate from cryptocurrencies, I think it's great that cryptocurrencies are going to disrupt the gaming industry, and they will. It'll probably actually, I know we talked about how the music industry is falling apart. The first industry to really fall apart, truly, would be the gaming industry, and we can all cheer and rejoice, because holy cow, are these companies some of the most morally corrupt garbage institutions. Actually, in the modern world, and I kind of think about it. If you thought the Facebook allegations are bad, go ahead and dig through Activision Blizzard's current fiasco, because no one from Facebook that I remember actually killed themselves over how bad the working conditions were, and Facebook literally assigned people to watch that on a day-to-day basis. Excuse me. I should probably cut that out. I'm not gonna remember though. Which is just ridiculous. Yeah. That's just the tip of the iceberg, by the way, because not only do these companies do egregious stuff like that, but then they turn around and they're constantly trying to police their communities and on their behavior and stuff. It's just, I don't know. There's a hardcore Bill Cosby effect going on there, where it's like the person that's trying the hardest to seem good is actually like the most evil, degenerate. Degenerate is not the word, but just evil, nefarious character, and that's just trying to put up an image. And actually, monsters. Riot Games, who's owned by Tencent, is another example of a community these communities, in gaming, the community is everything, right? In sports, the fans are everything. It's the same thing in gaming, but all these gaming cultures are some of the worst cultures ever. Like, they're all toxic. They're all very, very toxic. It's weird that just keeps endlessly happening. And I'm caught on this a little bit, but I mean, it's interesting. I recognize the culture significance because those don't seem like stable cultures. They seem like a mess. The institutions that run them are definitely a mess, and they also just all got hit because China, who has a huge gaming industry, just like ours, was just the Eastern world has bigger gaming industry than us for sure. It's just that our DUAs are actually, it's DAUs, daily active users, are per capita worth more than in other countries as far as like advertising goes, and as far as the companies evaluate it, and as far as like esports goes, like viewership. So we put ourselves at a higher platform, but if you purely went by the numbers and not like the average value of each viewer, but rather the sheer mass of them, the Eastern world is just, holy cow. It's different in the culture too, and the culture is more acceptable. And here it's so, I mean, rightfully so. It's because our video game cultures became so. It's probably these companies are such a freaking disaster. But yeah, that's how you got to summarize that. So when cryptos come out and they have their own gaming culture, and these games that are made in the crypto world are set with the actual cryptocurrency, so people can make money playing the game. That is like that. There's people in third world countries, like in the Philippines, that are legitimately like, this is what they do. They make the minimum wage in their country playing these video games that are based on the cryptocurrencies. So, which is awesome. I mean, you have to also think that these companies then so when you're playing a game, you find items in the world, and there's no in-game shops for these games. So everything you find in the world is truly unique, which means everything has its own value in that world. And then the open marketplace that exists in it then sets the rates of everything. So then 4% of all the transactions that occur in the world are added to the cryptocurrency treasury, and the rest the players keep. So you can just go around the world and try to look for super rare items and sell those. I make a living doing that. And the world generates infinitely because it's being powered by the massive blockchain. And kids love video games and they're on them all the time. But the other thing you could do is you can go out if you're the first ones. So the first one to do this is doing a Pokemon version. Well, I shouldn't say first, but the biggest, the most notable, the one that hit my radar, the one that, hits most people's radar. There's a few others, but we'll start with this one because they have the most information out there. You can make a monopoly, right? As your treasury builds, the value of your crypto coin builds. As the value of the crypto coin builds, it's also a marketing tool to check out your games. If you are early, you have the most money, and you already have, because remember, you can't just buy in to this unless you want to dump a ton of money into the coin treasury, and then you have to make a huge bet. You have to bet on one game. Or branch out like they are. They're already actively aware of this, that no game will persist forever and will need updates. Or you just need to buy more games and build them on the same cryptocurrency, and then say, okay, now all transactions for all the games work with this cryptocurrency. It's then what happens? I mean, just think about it. You show off the rest of your NFTs in your game. You have real estate in the game. Any interactions or games that you play inside the game are also done with real money. Okay, so there is actually different interest rate markets within the game that you can use to get in-game items that interact with the in-game treasury. I mean, it goes deep. It's wild. And there's also other cryptocurrencies that make different, separate from gaming and the actual crypto world, separate from that world. There's, different coins that make different interest rate products, basically different interest rate markets and stuff within the cryptocurrency universe. So you can borrow cryptocurrencies, but remember, you can't ever over leverage yourself because there's no I think my brain just broke. The process through which you could get margin is called hypocalytation. I can visualize the word, and I am just dyslexic, I guess. Hypocalytation. Is that right? Okay, we got to move past that. Holy cow. That's what occurs when you take margin from the bank, and then when you're trading with margin, the broker takes that money that you get. They get their own loan from the bank. That's called calisthenics. It's not what I'm trying to say. It's a form of fitness. All right. That word has defeated me in my mental. That might be what we call the podcast, actually. I might be getting sleepy. It is late. Okay. We'll touch on one more thing. So, yeah, you can't over leverage yourself in the crypto market. You can't blow up. But it will cause extra volatility in the market. Speaking of volatility in the market, what will also cause volatility in the market is the new Bitcoin futures ETF. Now, keep in mind, this will trade exactly like the miners, where when crypto's rallying, these things are going to trade at higher premiums, and when crypto's falling, they're going to trade at greater discounts. Okay, so they're going to either outperform or underperform the greater crypto market. But this is also going to change the way institutions interact with these products. So you're probably going to see a shift of funds. And keep in mind, I love all of these products. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is another one. GBTC, I believe. How does that not feel right? The Grayscale. If you type in Grayscale your brokerage app, it'll come up. I love that product because it's actually investing based on market weight. I thought it had Bitcoin. I actually like that a little bit better than the Bitcoin miners, just for the reasons that we went over in previous podcasts. You need to diversify out in the bull runs so that you can try to, catch the end of that tail as it flips up. It'll probably get bigger percentages increases in the smaller coins, but in the bear markets, you probably want to hop into Bitcoin. These products on the stock market are going to do well when the Bitcoins go nuts, especially if the rest of the market becomes questionable, especially if the energy shortages go up. Keep in mind, the crypto market is going to be empowered by a failure of a government. If you are looking around at some of these governments and you're like, wow, there's a lot of totalitarian governments popping up everywhere. This is what originally drove interest in cryptocurrencies. It's like, wait a second. The more questionable the financial systems get, the more rich people are going to dump their money into cryptocurrency to get away from it. Because who's going to buy gold? No one's going to buy gold. I posted on, I posted in several places, but I mentioned to the podcast and the idea that in space there's infinite gold. Like, gold is not actually a rare resource. And I get this question all the time, actually, now I think about it, but people always ask me if I'm being satirical when I talk about futuristic stuff like that. It's like, I don't know if they think it's not worth the time to ponder on stuff like that, or if people really just think that gold is actually rare. There's nothing actually on Earth that's rare, because we live in an ever expanding universe, right? So if you were gonna think on an infinite time scale, which is, the same person who probably said, "Is this satire?" will probably also say, take care of the environment. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to do that, but I think on a greater time scale than the technology that exists in front of me. If I think about the technology that exists in front of me, I don't care about gold. And actually, there's a lot of renewable resources that I stopped caring about, if you think about it, because I could just go get those anywhere. The universe is infinitely expanding. There's an asteroid that's like 3 planets away from us that's like worth 20 times the entire global financial system because there's so much gold on it. And I might have the positioning of it wrong in my head, but that's a real thing. It's not going to be long before Bezos wants to drive his big... I'll try to abstain from making the obvious jokes. You get what I'm trying to say. Someone's gonna go chase that eventually. The space race will lead to that, and I know there's all sorts of problems, so ridiculous problems that meet solved for that. So maybe we don't go that far out. But look, asteroids, they come by the planet all the time. They even come down to the planet. They interact with our satellites. Just go collect some of those. You're going to find all sorts of different metals. With reusable jet fuel, or rocket fuel, you start to solve a lot of problems. And as frequently as we're going up to space, that too. Granted, a lot of these things are probably going to get delayed a little bit because of all these storage problems. Whatever. It just is. It is what it is. I'm sure whatever is used to fix these, whatever we do to fix or resolve the supply shortages, is going to be an awesome solution that will propel us into a new age of productivity that I can't, all I do is sit down and try to think of potential futures, because that's the way I invest. And it's, I mean, it's just, it goes forever. There's such endless possibilities. We're in a definitely really cool technological age, despite how, I say despite, but I think it's, all right, we'll end on something a little philosophical. I mean, it's chaotic. It's a chaotic Earth, a chaotic planet. There's a lot of social conversations, a lot of financial issues, a lot of political issues. But, I mean, every time in history there's something like this, I mean, something just miraculous and awesome is usually birthed from this sort of turmoil. Granted, turmoil's just starting. I doubt it's anywhere close to being done. But whatever is on the other end of it, I know will be super awesome. Because that's just the rhyme of history. And this rhyme is going to be something that even RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan is going to be like, yo, that's dope. And I'll see you guys on the next episode.